If you're sitting at a desk and wondering whether you should keep stuffing a bulky tower under a monitor stand or finally admit that the little box on your shelf might actually do the job, you're not alone. Most people buying a mini PC want something that just works quiet enough not to drown a phone call, small enough to slip behind a monitor, and powerful enough to keep up with spreadsheets, a few Photoshop tweaks, and maybe a dash of video rendering without demanding a separate graphics card. The risk is ending up with a nice-looking box that spends more time idling than actually helping you get work done, or worse, a system that overheats the moment you open a couple of tabs. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The Lenovo ThinkStation P3 Ultra Gen 2 tries to strike that balance. It's a 30cm wide chassis that fits into the space a typical router occupies, yet it packs an Intel Core Ultra 5235 with vPro and a W880 chipset. On paper that sounds like a lot, but the real test is how it behaves when you're actually trying to finish a client presentation, export a short animation, or run a few virtual machines for testing. I spent a couple of days running the machine through a typical workday routine to see whether it lives up to the promise of being a professional-grade mini PC. First off, the footprint is genuinely small. The black matte case slides easily behind a 27-inch monitor, leaving a tidy gap for cable management. For anyone who's tried to cram a full-size tower into a cramped home office, that alone feels like a win. The port selection is decent for a device this size: 2 USB-C power delivery ports, 3 USB-A 3.2 Gen 2 slots, HDMI 2.1, a DisplayPort, a gigabit Ethernet jack, and a headphone/mic combo. That means you can hook up a dual monitor setup, connect a wired network for stable video calls, and still have a couple of legacy USB sticks handy without needing a dongle. The only thing missing is an SD card reader, which could be a minor inconvenience if you work with cameras that still spit out SD cards. When you fire it up, the first thing you notice is the fan. Lenovo has opted for a single, low-profile fan that sits directly over the CPU. In a quiet office, the sound is barely audible. Think a gentle hum you could easily forget about. However, once you start a light render in After Effects or run a batch of PDF conversions, the fan ramps up noticeably. It's not an obnoxious whine, but you'll hear it if you're using a headset with active noise cancellation. For most office tasks, email, web browsing, Microsoft Office, even a few Photoshop layers, that's perfectly acceptable, but if you plan on sustained heavy rendering, the noise will become a factor. Thermals hold up surprisingly well given the size. The Core Ultra 5235 sits at a nominal 15 WTDP, and the fan keeps the CPU under 70 C even under a modest load. The SSD 512GB NVMe runs cool, and there's no throttling that I could detect during my tests. The real downside is upgrade flexibility. The ThinkStation P3 Ultra uses a proprietary layout for the RAM and SSD, which means you can replace the 16GB of DDR5 memory with up to 64GB, but you'll need a Lenovo-specific SODIMM that isn't as easy to source as generic sticks. The SSD slot is M.22280. But again, you have to open the case and work around a tight space. It's doable, but not something you'd want to do every few months. If you're the type who likes to tinker or anticipate needing more storage in a few years, you'll have to plan ahead. From a productivity perspective, the machine feels snappy. Windows 11 Pro boots in under a minute, and launching Chrome with 12 tabs, Word, and Outlook took no more than a second or two. Light creative work, cropping photos, applying filters in Lightroom, or editing a 1080p video clip runs smoothly, and you won't notice lag unless you throw a 4K timeline with multiple effects at it. The integrated Intel graphics, thanks to the newer SE architecture, handle two 4K displays without stutter, which is great for designers who need a lot of screen real estate. That said, if your workflow involves heavy 3D modeling, GPU-accelerated rendering, or gaming, the lack of a dedicated GPU will be a deal-breaker. In those cases, a tower with a mid-range RTX card or a high-end laptop will outperform the ThinkStation by a wide margin. Who should buy this? If you're a freelance graphic designer, accountant, or remote worker who needs a reliable workstation for daily tasks, occasional light video work, and you value a clean desk, the P3 Ultra makes sense. Its small size, quiet operation, and decent port mix cover the basics without forcing you to compromise on performance for everyday software. It also appeals to IT departments that want vPro management capabilities for remote provisioning and security updates, something you'll appreciate if you're managing several machines in a small office. Who should skip it? If you're a content creator whose projects regularly involve 4K video encoding, 3D rendering,